Welcome back to the Movie Whale Marathon. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Mac. Yay.
Yay. And we're continuing our Wizard of
Yay.
Oz style marathon that is not connected to anything anywhere at all. The first movie's not connected to this one. This one's not connected to next week. And next week is connected to the week after that. But only by technicality. We are on Oz the Great and
Very
Powerful.
Ozian.
It is. We are on Oz the Great and Powerful. Came out 2013. Directed by Sam Raimi. I like Sam Raimi. This is going to be rough. Starring James Franco, Mila Kunis, Michelle Williams, Rachel Weisz, Zach Braff, Joey King, and like Bill Cobbs and Bruce Campbell for a second. That's really it. That's it. After the Harry Potters, that's such a nicer cast to have to read.
Yeah, there's essentially 3 or 4 characters that matter, kind of depending on how you slice it.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. So, yeah. Oz the Great and Powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man.
So okay. I find this one kind of hard to like develop a solid opinion on, just in the sense that like I feel like if you were to cut it in half, the first half is very, very bad, very, very poor. Nothing really redeemable about it. And the second half is a promising concept. But because the second half is dragged down by the first half so heavily, I don't think any of it really escapes the fact that it's just kind of a bad movie, which is such a bummer because it's beautiful, and I think, well, okay.
Well,
if you ignore the fact that they overdo it on the CGI a little bit.
And the saturation of that CGI. I got a headache watching this.
I kind of like the heavy saturation for
Why?
Oz.
It makes it look less believable.
Well, that's kind of Oz, right? Like, our version of Technicolor would be something like that.
See, I'm gonna have to push back on that because I feel like the unbelievability of Oz previously was due to a lack of technicality, and now it's charm. Seeing the line on the floor where the yellow brick road ends and the wall-sized painting begins is now charm. But Technicolor then was groundbreaking and fun and amazing. If we don't have that equivalent now, the goal is to get some of the best CGI that we have to offer and make the world look as believable as you could, or follow the concept of these are the special effects that these guys did then. Let's call up whoever is working at Stan Winston's studio now and show what we've learned in 80 years. They didn't do any of that, and it annoys me because the CGI at best is fine. The China girl looks great. She looks really, really good, and the flying monkeys are fine. The sceneries are, I think, atrocious, and a lot of I think the word, I learned this from Corridor Crew, so it's not like I don't know anything, but I think the word is rotoscoping. But like when the witches are kind of flying around, especially when Rachel Weisz leans forward to peek behind the tree when China Girl is hiding, that looks like a Spy Kids movie. Like half of the time it looks like a Spy Kids movie. It's too much CGI. It's too much saturation. There's multiple instances where like when he's in the vault with the gold, or when the sun is setting and it's so yellow and everyone's faces are drowned out it doesn't look good. The Wizard of Oz was a technical marvel. This was an opportunity to do the same thing, and they just don't. I don't even, at first, the charm of starting in black and white and filming it in the little box, whatever, I don't know what the ratio
aspect
is.
ratio.
Yeah, the different aspect ratio. I like that, but I feel like 2013 wasn't like film in its adolescence. Like, I feel like to really emphasize that, you should film it like they would have back then. But the fact that they're filming it the exact same way with the same kind of cuts, the same kind
Yes,
of
that's one of my comments
film,
as
yeah,
well.
it's just they just made it black and white, which I don't think carries the same
Yeah.
kind of weight. Like, does
No, they do not do a good job of striking the balance between like paying tribute to the original art style of the
mm-hmm,
film and trying to update it to the modern times, because I think there are multiple versions of that balance that you can strike. But
mm-hmm,
what they ended up doing was telling their actors to overact a little bit,
mm,
and or maybe they just hired actors who did that, which I
yeah,
have comments on casting choices. But the they told their actors to overact. They kept some of the diction the same. Not a
mm-hmm,
lot of it, but they kept some of the diction the same for like Oz characters. They kind of sound like the Oz characters, Ozian characters from the original. A lot of the showmen speak or whatever is pretty on par with what we saw from the wizard in the original. So they, with the actors and the dialect, they kind of tried to pay tribute to all of that. But then everything they do filming wise, like literally everything they do filming wise, is very modern.
yeah,
And so to start in black and white and to have like these canted angles and like this up and down sort
yeah,
of like
and this like
angles on the actors.
overhead shot moving through the circus at first is like, this
Yeah.
is cool because
Uh-huh.
it's a long uninterrupted shot, but like I don't that they don't do anything like that in Wizard of Oz
You're
necessarily.
supposed to be making me feel like I'm watching the beginning of The
Yes.
Wizard of Oz, and you're
Yes.
making style choices that tell me that I'm watching a modern film.
Yeah.
The black and white filter really isn't enough. It's like you
No.
put like a band-aid on top of a modern thing and called
Yeah.
it something else. Like,
Uh-huh.
it's not.
And
It
then
doesn't work like that.
I don't and it's too busy because it's so modern that the black and white thing,
Hmm.
like you lose stuff like the CGI effects in the black and white. I think everything gets all muddled together. I don't like the look of the tornado in a well, this is 10 years ago, but in a modern day film the tornado looks less imposing and less fun than the one in Wizard of Oz. And then we
Yeah.
talked a little last week, I don't think it was on the episode, but I thought the trailer for this movie looked amazing. I was very excited. I thought the concept sounded great, and the trailer does this cool, not bass drop, like a bell toll, where the when he gets to Oz and the aspect ratio changes and the color comes in. But it's better in the trailer because in the trailer, it's behind the balloon, looking out on Oz as he goes over the rainbow, literally, little heavy-handed, and the aspect ratio
Hmm.
changes and the color comes in. In the movie, it starts on his face. Don't start on his
Hmm.
face. Don't give us a weird
Hmm.
half-colored James Franco who looks like a sickly Victorian child,
Hmm.
and then twist around to show us Oz. Do what you did in the trailer. It looked great. So,
Yeah. I didn't like that fade to color either. I was watching for when it would happen, right?
mm-hmm.
Because that's the big thing. And it was so disappointing to go from like a close shot of his face to like up and out into the world. And I think what they were trying to do is be like, this is what his reaction is. Here's what he's reacting to. But it felt, I don't know. That's not what they do with Dorothy. With Dorothy,
No.
they let the audience experience it first, right? And that's
Yes.
kind of what I felt like you should
Excellent
have
point.
done here. And, you know, especially since this is the Oz reveal and you're trying to mimic what the original Oz reveal was like. So we're not watching Dorothy experience the Wonder of Oz. We're experiencing, whoa, this place is crazy. And then we get to see her reaction to it. Mimicking that would have been better, I think,
Mm-hmm.
which is what the trailer did, according to your description. And there's just I don't know. I don't have giant issues with a lot of the design choices for the random like map of Oz they've created, but I do feel like they basically just kind of went, let's go Wonderland,
I
and
was
they
thinking
didn't
the
really
same
tie it
thing.
in.
I was
They didn't
thinking
really
the
tie it
same
in with like the
thing.
things that are unique to Oz itself. Like
Yeah.
obviously the movie doesn't really stick super heavy with the plot of or the world building of the original book series, but if you're doing an adaptation of a classic story that has a book series that has lots of weird imagery in it, why would you not return to the book? I mean, I think that's what some of it is. I'm pretty sure Doll's Town is a
Mm-hmm.
part of like the original Oz, because Oz had lots of different little weird towns
Mm-hmm.
like that where
Mm-hmm.
different little denizens of those places existed. But the rest of it, like the giant flowers, very Wonderland, especially in
Yeah.
terms of like being introduced to the place. There's a lot of just like kind of big giant foliage rather than unique landscapes. The idea that Glenda's secret castle is also Munchkin Land doesn't really make a lot of
Yeah, I don't
sense,
really know what we're doing with that. Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of let's just build something that looks kind of cool and has no logical geography with story that we're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And that I find rather irritating. I also, just a random point that has to do with connection to the original film.
Mm-hmm.
Why are the slippers just not in this film?
Yeah, it's an interesting question.
I wait for the ruby slippers, especially in the evolution of the witches, the entire time. One of the witches has red as her primary color
Mm-hmm.
until she becomes green.
Uh-huh.
And we just don't have ruby
No.
slippers. We don't
Nope.
even have silver
Nope. Nope.
slippers.
Mm-mm.
All
I don't know.
right, whatever.
I see. I think that's the thing I honestly don't like is the number of references to the Wizard of Oz, because I think they feel, I don't know. I honestly can't think of the right word. It's just, I guess, unnecessary, because we're not doing anything with it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the lion shows up, and it is the lion because they call him a cowardly lion. That's the lion. CGI is terrible. He looks terrible. So we reference him. Okay, we're making scarecrows. You make it narratively important. Okay, I guess you get a slight pass. We have all these tinkerers. There's when they're running through the graveyard, one of the flying monkeys hits a statue that's in the exact same pose as the Tin Man. I'll give you that one.
Right.
That's a real
Mm-hmm.
subtle nod. That's fair. Um, Most of the other ones I think are technically within the realm of passability. I just don't like them. The fact that Oz himself was dating Dorothy's mother, I do not like.
Yeah,
That's
I hate that. I
I don't like that at all.
hate the whole Gale connection. She
That's too
shows up in the
much.
gingham dress, and
Yeah.
it's no. My notes are exactly John Gale, as in Dorothy Gale.
Yeah.
What is happening here?
Yeah.
Because like the the idea with the Wizard of Oz character is very much that he's set up to be like the actual Oz, like Professor Amazo or whatever his name is.
Professor Marvel.
It's Marvel, yeah. He maybe, if you stretch, could be considered a paternal figure for Dorothy. If you stretch.
Mm.
Really, he's just a kind stranger,
Yeah.
right? And then the wizard himself is not paternal either. He really is just kind of a kind, goofy stranger who's also a bit of a liar. And so like there's this idea of trying to make the wizard like some sort of emotional support character, any version of the wizard that makes him trustworthy or emotional support. You have to do a lot of explaining to fix that. And to have our wizard start as just straight up a con man who is doing his best to break as many girls' hearts as he can.
Yeah.
And then to have a whole like emotional arc here where he's trying to become a better man, great versus good or whatever. You have to do a lot of work in order to sell that. I don't feel like they did any work at all. They basically just said, look at how awful this guy is. Now he feels guilt about being awful.
Right.
Now he invents some things and no longer feels bad.
Well, see, I wanted to touch on that, because minus the fact that he's a player, which is not great and annoying, and we never really get over or address. They hammer home that he's a con man, a terrible, lying, awful con man. He's a circus magician. That's just the job. He's not conning anybody.
Yeah.
That's the job. Like, if you wanted him to be a lying, deceitful, awful piece of shit, then make him one. But what you've presented us with, he's just a magician. And all you give us is that we see a crowd get mad at him because he can't make a girl walk. Like, you went to a circus magician asking for like
Hmm.
I take issue with that message, honestly, because he's not going from town to town selling snake oil. He's not going from town to
Hmm.
town selling fortunes or telling people that he can change their future. He's just a magician. And what's silly is he's down on himself constantly. That
Yeah.
he's a con
Yeah.
man, he's a shitty person, but objectively he's a good magician. That he scares a
Yeah.
lion away. He just pulls a table out of his pocket. He has a fucking bird in his hat that he uses to get rid of him. Like, he's not a bad magician. Like, I just the messaging here is muddled, and
Hmm.
I take issue with that because you're telling us one thing, you're showing us something else, and then the thing that is a character flaw, the way he approaches women, that is an issue that never changes, ever. He
And arguably, like the way he treats other people in general, right? They even write in like a sidekick character just so he can treat
Yeah,
someone other than a woman poorly in
uh
the
huh,
story. And he never actually treats that character with any real respect. I mean, there's like a little begrudging camaraderie at the end of the film, but
yeah.
like, it, I don't
And but
know.
see, even with that,
He's still a monkey.
he's still a monkey. I will then I stand by that point, but then I will also fully defend him and the movie illustrating Theodora as becoming a monster because of him. That's not on him at all. Like,
Hmm.
his worst
Oh,
crime to you.
really?
Well, no, because I would say because even Evanor points out, did he say you were gonna be the queen, or did you say that? So
Right.
you met a dude in the woods. He flirted a little much. You both moved a little fast. Let's be honest. That's on both of you. Then he led you on a tad. You came on strong. You did. And
Hmm.
then you saw that he really wasn't worth a shit. And then he didn't lie, but didn't tell the truth. And then you see him hanging out with another woman. Your sister is lying to you. You eat a poison apple. Everything becomes clear, quote unquote. You realize your sister is full of shit, but you have no issues with her lying to you.
Hmm.
You are mad at him for checks notes turning you into a monster. He didn't do anything to you except not treating you with respect by not
Hmm.
having open communication. That's it. And that's our origin story for the Wicked Witch of the West. That's bullshit. You know?
Yeah.
Like, am I out
It,
of place commenting on this?
I don't think so. I do think I like what the film does at the end, where he basically says, like, I know that you
Mm,
were hurt and that's why you are wicked. And so if you wanted to come back, there is an open door for you. I like that acknowledgement of like there was some wrong done. Because I think Theodora overreacted, don't get me wrong. But I think Theodora was also mostly just manipulated. First manipulated by Oz, which, again, they both came on pretty strong, but he has a whole shtick he does that he knows that women likes.
yeah. But
And so there's some manipulation in that. Not like
yeah.
full on abusive manipulation, but there's some manipulation in
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
And then the moment her heart is broken, her sister, who she's supposed to be able to trust, basically poisons her and turns her into someone who can only see wickedness in the world. So there's a certain level of wrongdoing to Theodora in all of that over
Mm,
her arc, even if she's like over emotional about something or if she bought into something too hard, that's on her.
mm.
But what happens to her when she's down is not on her, I would argue.
I
Um,
sure, but I think that that speaks to a greater issue with Theodora is that before she
hmm,
becomes the Green Witch, she is stupid. Like, she is at best naive as hell to the point where it's almost weird because it seems childish.
yes, no, I agree.
At worst, she's just stupid. And like there's
My Yeah, no, my initial reaction to her first few lines is always, is she evil right now? I can't remember because I assume she's trying to trick him by
mhm.
pretending to be dumb. The
But no,
classic,
she's
little
Right.
secret for all those guys out there. Girls pretend to be dumb sometimes to trick guys because
Uh-huh.
guys believe that girls are dumb. And
Uh-huh.
so I was like, this
He's
looks like a
falling for the
trap. She's
trap.
setting a
She's
trap.
reeling
Yeah,
him
but
in.
no.
No.
No, she's just that dumb about her own world.
Yeah. And there's
Also, do we ever see her do any magic other than like the occasional accidental fire burst before she becomes the witch?
she flies, and I don't like the way they show it because when
What?
she's hovering around holding her arms like a little T-Rex, it looks really stupid. But other than that, no.
Yeah, it's giving we needed an innocent character to become evil and we didn't want to think too hard about who she was, so we're just going to make her sad. And that is it's really poor character writing. I would argue the only good characters in this story are Glenda because of the performance and I think the porcelain girl, I don't remember her name right
I don't
now,
even know if
but
they gave her one. They just
she
kept calling her China Girl.
that's such a good point. Oh my
Let me double
gosh.
check.
I think because the role she needed to play was simple and effective, like the design of the character it kind of automatically fulfills the need of that role. I think it ends up being consistent. But Oz's character is inconsistent. We've already
Mm.
talked about how he's supposed to be like this really awful person, but the thing that he does that's supposed to make him a really awful person, like perform as a magician, doesn't make him an awful person. It's his relationships with other characters that makes him an awful person. And none of his relationships until the China girl and Glenda do anything to change him. And then arguably, they don't really change him enough because he does decide to stay, but only after like I don't know. Basically, he has to,
Mm.
or it's not going to work for him. Like he asks someone to build him a hot air balloon, but by that time he's already decided to stay. So it's not there's no good moment where the character is genuinely changed by anything. Glenda realizes right away that this kid, this guy here, some kind of fraud. I don't know exactly what the fraud is going on, but he's not using any magic. I'm doing all the work to save us. He's acting weird. I'm just going to go ahead and use him as a pawn so I can get my agenda completed. That's what makes her a good character because that's exactly what a princess in a kingdom that is lost to usurpers would do in that situation. For whatever reason, Glenda herself is not enough to protect the people of Oz or to take over the kingdom again.
Yeah, there's not enough
And she has
elaboration
to use a
on.
wizard.
Yeah. I don't. The prophecy I think is dumb. The situation itself is frustrating and dumb because we don't really get to see what Emerald City is like. We don't really get to see how Evanora has just been ruling with an iron fist. All we get to see are the monkeys flying around and them causing havoc. Why? No one has said. For some reason, we wanted to destroy the Chinatown. I can't imagine they were great threats to you, but it seems like maybe they were.
Well, they actually they do kind of throw a reason out for that. The Chinatown people were celebrating the fact that the
Oh, that's
wizard had
right. I'm
arrived.
sorry. Well, that's even
Yeah.
dumber. But I
And that's a classic dictator movie move.
sure, but I also there's genuine again confusion with Theodora is hiding from these monkeys. Like she is
Yeah.
under the impression that they're at the behest of Glinda, even though she lives in the
Hmm.
city where they come and go. So
Yeah.
if it's implied that she's supposed to be under Evanora's spell, they do not illustrate that very well. Because
Yeah.
it's not I really don't think that they illustrate that at all. It's just you assume that because of how ridiculously blind she is to the situation that we're in.
I honestly feel like she is the weakest character. Well, you could argue that Oz himself is the
Well,
weakest
yeah,
character,
Oz
but
kind of sucks, and James Franco doesn't help that because I don't.
no, his I genuinely think good acting is the only thing that could have saved this movie, and he is
No.
the opposite in this film. I've not seen a whole
Yes.
lot of films with him in it, so I can't speak to his just general ability, but he was not the right cast for this role
No.
by any means. None of the faces he pulls in this
Mm.
film look sincere. He looks like, I am acting sadness. I am acting confusion. It's bad.
Yeah.
But the character that makes the least amount of sense is Theodora, very specifically because I don't think they knew exactly what direction they wanted to go with her character, and they decided probably kind of late in the game that they wanted her to be a victim of the cruelness of the people around her. Specifically, they wanted her to be a victim of Oz so that Oz would feel guilty and realize the consequences of his actions on, how what he does affects other people. But if you look at the film, as we've discussed, Oz's actions with Theodora, you could honestly say, are kind of like straight up just a mistake. Like, he's not trying to do anything. And arguably you could say that about, like, maybe he was just being, but with like, I was gonna say you could say that with the girls back in Kansas too, but honestly I don't think that's fair, because he kind of, going through the girls like he did, he knew what he was doing to them. But the consequences for them would be like maybe a bit of a broken heart, and then they go cry it off and they meet somebody else. And that is, I think, generally fair to say. It's still an awful thing to do. Those girls are going through heartache and negative emotions, but at the same time, like, they're not gonna be convinced by their wicked evil sister to eat an apple that permanently changes them into this creature. But if they wanted Oz's actions to have a negative impact on the people around him, it would have been way, 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 way more effective just to use the people of Oz in general. And with Theodora, as it is, she just ends up being this weak, nothing character that has no real vested interest or characteristics of her own. She just is this sweet, logicless thing that lives completely blind to her sister's faults, even though her sister must be doing all the evil schemes right underneath her nose. Sees a strange guy fall out of the air and immediately goes, "You're the love of my life."
Yeah.
And then as soon as that guy is interacting, just talking to what is probably the enemy, her heart breaks into a bazillion pieces and she can't make a rational decision. I mean, I would rather her just go full evil with a decently good reason than all this, but really have her start as an evil character, and a lot of the early parts of this film get fixed. Like, I think if she's manipulating Oscar, it's stronger.
If you wanted to play it that the Wicked Witch of the West was the evil one the whole time, playing dumb, and like also the one behind the Wicked Witch of the East the whole time, that would have been powerful. That would have been cool. That would have been fun, because to try to introduce an origin story for her, none of it works, because you have her heartbreaking to Oz's consistent bravado, but he honestly didn't even get a chance to do that. He doesn't give a magic music box to Evanora or Glinda. Like, he doesn't say let's say for the sake of conversation, they were dating. They didn't even get to break up. Like, it was just Evanora's actions manipulating her. And then in the end, I don't know what the apple is supposed to do. Because it says it hardens your heart.
Why are we doing an apple? That's Snow White. That's not Oz.
I know. But like, so the apple hardens your heart. And then it also turns you green, grows your chin, grows your nose, and makes your eyebrows in a permanent scowl. And then, according to the shadow, gives you hair that looks like the Green Goblin's helmet, which we don't see again because we put on a ski mask with the face cut off. Then we put on a hat. And then this is a whole other thing. I take real issue that we tried to take one of the iconic spooky movie characters and tried to make her sexy, but we didn't want to just make her sexy. We wanted to make her scary and ugly, because she's supposed to be the ugly version of Mila Kunis, but you still had to try to make her sexy. Everyone's wearing fucking corsets. She's got a look like not like a low cut, but like the Wicked Witch of the West is in full black garb with her skinny, spooky green fingers and her green face with all the emphasis there. But for some reason, Theodora is wearing that weird headpiece to show her face, and then her collarbone and shoulders, just a little bit of shoulders. I know she's got like the feathers on it. It's like a cool dress if it wasn't her. And it's like, why? Put her in robes that wrap her, like, if you want it to be form-fitting, kind of like the Mummy and Tom Cruise's Mummy. Not that we need to talk about Tom Cruise's Mummy, but you want like smoke to come out of the fireplace and drape her in like robes that form to make
Mm.
her look like a mummy. Not again, not like Tom Cruise, but like because she's like all shrunken and disheveled and gross. There you go, there you go, and like it
Yeah.
wraps around her neck,
Yeah.
and she puts the hat on, and then she's this creepy ass witch. Like, and then fix her eyebrows. My fucking god, fix the
Oh,
eyebrows.
like it's it's really honestly embarrassing
Mm.
because like the Wicked Witch of the West from the original is iconic
Mm-hmm.
and gnarly and like she feels like a witch from a bedtime story, you know, and this witch is just let's put on a fake chin and a fake nose and like a very smooth contoured green makeup with stenciled arched
Ugh.
eyebrows
Ugh.
and a good amount of mascara for our eyes that are
Yeah,
still gonna
got
be like
big
somewhat
eyelashes, big
appealing, I
eyelashes. We've
guess.
got pretty lips. Make sure the lipstick is there, you know.
Like your goal is not to make an attractive Wicked Witch here. Your goal is to
No.
make a visually interesting villain. And
Mm-hmm.
I
And you
think you could
failed.
have done that and still had some aspects of like femininity about the character that maybe the original version didn't have. But trying to make her like a Barbie doll version
I
of the
know.
Wicked Witch of the West is not the route to go. It just looks like you're trying to like sexify a character that's
Yeah.
not
Like,
supposed to be sexy.
and
It's weird.
it's so funny because it's again the trailer. It shows one trailer shows her hand scraping the marble. And it's like, oh shit, what awaits us? And then the
Mhm.
other trailer has when she lands in Munchkin Land in the fireball, and we see her silhouette, the nose and the hat, and I'm like, oh
Which
my
looks really
god, this is
cool.
gonna be so
Really.
cool.
It
This is
really
gonna be so
does.
cool. And then we see her face, and it's like, well,
I know.
that
I
that ride ended really fast. Like this is just disappointing. And then she's hovering around, like I said, like a little T-Rex with her arms, and it's just. And then the screaming, like, I, I, the laugh is almost okay. It comes out way unnaturally though, where she's just talking normally, and then she just breaks into cackles. But the screaming of curse, yeah, like it's too much, and I'm not feeling it.
Yeah. No, they cast her because she looks like a model, and then they couldn't abandon that idea when they made her the Wicked Witch, and it's a problem. And like, kind of back on your note on like why the apple makes her green. I think there was supposed to be a whole commentary on like in Oz, when you're wicked, your physical appearance is affected, and I think that was kind of the idea with Evanora's necklace and how she turned into like a kind of old
Mm-hmm.
gravelly lady at the end. Um, so like I think there was an illusion charm or some sort of like holding charm for her. Although all of the witches in this film do have like a I forget what it's called, but it's like a source for their magic or like a channeling tool
Oh
for their
yeah,
magic.
a
So like
siphon.
Theodora has the ring. Yeah, there's a term for it. Like that's what wands always are. A
Oh
focus maybe is the word. Um, I don't hate the design of Glenda's wand, but I do seriously wonder why she has a giant scepter in the original and a tiny little fairy thing in this
mm-hmm.
movie. I would have preferred something that resembles the staff a little bit more
Yeah.
closely, I
Also,
think.
why is she the
I don't
Witch of
know.
the South in this?
That's a book thing.
Fine. Is James Franco and all of his mumbo jumbo and the Flying Monkey Butler and the Little China Girl a book thing? Maybe.
I
Is
think
Mila
the China
Kunis a
Girl
book
is
thing?
kind of a book thing. No, no. The honestly, their mistake was trying to make Theodora innocent in all of this because I get what they were trying to do in terms of like the Oz and having consequences for his actions and how he makes other people feel. But if we start with two evil sisters have taken over the land of Oz, and Oscar doesn't know that when he arrives in Oz, so he falls into their clutches, and then they kind of like mirror the whole "go kill the Wicked Witch" thing that he ends up doing with Dorothy later. Which why would he choose that strategy if he had already been used on it himself and he knew it
Don't think
wouldn't
about it too
work? But
much. That's a
anyway,
whole other movie.
um, um, and then he goes, and because he's an absolute fool, he makes a mess of it, and he teams up with Glenda, and he decides to believe her because she looks like his lost love from Earth, which That should have no impact on
It
anything,
shouldn't.
but okay, it
I don't.
does.
That's a whole other thing. Go finish your point because we do have to talk about that because
Yeah. It basically the first, I don't know if the first act, maybe the second act, arriving to Oz works a lot better with the sisters as an evil team,
mm,
trying to manipulate all of the Ozians into believing that they're the rightful herald or, holders of the throne until the correct, person can take their place. And they're going to use him as a political pawn, be like, you are now our puppet king of Oz, and we're going to continue to maintain rule, but you look like an idiot who will just stay in the castle and have fun all day. So great for us. And then they make the mistake of trying to use him to end the war, which, like, why would Evanora send someone she knows is useless to Glenda? Was she just hoping that he would die? Probably.
he was.
Bad strategy, though,
I
because
don't.
Glenda's not a killer.
Yeah, I know. Like she was either hoping that he would somehow kill her, knowing he's an oaf and a fraud, or she was hoping that she would kill him, knowing that she will not do that. So
Yeah,
there's.
yeah.
I think. See, one of my issues while watching this movie was I was having trouble analyzing and like trying to critique and evaluate the plot. And I think it's because there really isn't one. There's no sense to anything. It's just I say I want this, I say I do this. Character tells me to do this, I do this. But like the motivations are all over the place. The only one I can think of that has a motivation is Monkey has a motivation because of a life debt. And Glinda has a motivation because she wants to save Oz. But we don't really see what's wrong with Oz other than the monkeys causing issues. But those could be a force of nature and it be just as significant. We don't see what Evanora is doing or what she wants. Because it's like, she wants to rule the universe just like Zurg and Darth Vader and Voldemort. But like all those characters have more background than she does. Like Wizard of Oz was fine with having this crazy monstrous villain who lives over there and causes issues every now and then, like the fucking heat miser or snow miser. You don't want to get in their way. But for some reason now, this entity is now a political figure that is ruling Oz, and we don't really know how or what. Yeah, I get it. She poisoned the last king. But like, was the king a wizard? Yes, he was. But he didn't see that coming? Why are they so powerful? Like, there's all these things. None of it is explained. We don't get into it. We don't spend time as Oz wondering how the hell or where the hell we are. Like, oh, you're gonna have all this gold. What are you gonna do with it? You can't. You don't know how to get back. You're already treated like royalty. Well, like, what more do you need? Like, sorry, I'm rambling. There's a horrendous thing in this movie where no one verifies shit. And it's just bad for a movie that's made by adults. Oz gets there. One witch is like, yep, he's the one. The other one is like, no, he's not. Did either of you verify anything? No. So in this way, you're both wrong. You were told that Glinda was evil. Okay, she's fucking evil. So you go to Glinda. Glinda says, no, she's not. And you take her word for it because, checks notes, I guess because she's blonde, because she doesn't verify anything, she doesn't show you anything, there's not like a hidden document, a recording, a magical ghost of the wizard father that says or explains or verifies shit. You don't talk to the Oz citizens.
She's blonde, she's wearing a silver crown, and she's got white on the inside of her hood. She's obviously gonna be the good one, even though she hangs out at a graveyard.
I guess. Because also, if you wanted to kind of use that color theory thing, you've got Evanora who's wearing green, the spooky evil color. But you put these motherfuckers in Oz, where they're gonna be green anyway. So what is this supposed to say to us? And it's just, it's the whole like, yes, I'm here to kill you because I was told you're evil. Well, I'm not. Well, fuck me then. I don't know what I was doing. Sorry. I guess we should go fight the other two.
This very idea is kind of flawed because, I don't know, you could probably do a decent, if you had a solid plot, you could probably do a decent story where the wizard learns to be more human and have sympathy and positive effects on the people that he is around. Because, like, to be fair, that is pretty much the one redeeming trait of the wizard in the original story, that even though he is a liar and a con man, his general effect on the public and the people he knows is positive. He makes them feel better about themselves. He provides structure for them, that sort of thing. But in the book, the wizard does way more questionable decisions, and it's exploring that same idea that we get in the film, but it's like way more dark. Like, he builds the Emerald City in the book, and everyone in the Emerald City is required to wear protective eyewear.
I've heard this. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's so fucking stupid. It's required
to wear protective eyewear because otherwise the brightness of the city would blind them and harm them. So out of the generosity of his heart, he has provided these glasses for everyone, and they're like basically screwed onto your head. Like, you can't not take them off. It's not like Frankenstein. It's just like they're attached, clamped around your head.
Okay.
And turns out, you learn later in the story, the city itself is not green. The lenses are green, and everything you see in the city is green because he has required you to have a certain perspective. So, like, that is the legacy of the Wizard of Oz. So to have this story where the wizard, in order to become the King of Oz, which he already is in the original, so that's where we're trying to go, right? In order to be the King of Oz, he has to learn a lesson about how to treat people with respect. But by the time we get to the wizard, we're not really sure if he's learned that lesson, if we're being totally honest, because the wizard, as we meet him in the original, he might generally be kind of good to the people around him, but he's a liar. He belittles the people of his own world who are intelligent and brave by kind of like mocking their achievements down to just the way that people perceive them, you know? I mean, again, that's his whole shtick, but like, I don't think it speaks to any sort of like integrity for him to do that. And it's just like to have the whole movie be focusing on this sort of like moral arc for the character, and the moral arc is kind of inappropriate for the character that he needs to become by the end of the film. It's really weird. If the story more honestly explored sort of like trickery and the damage and positivity that trickery can do for people, that would be a little bit more honest, rather than condemning him for having being really good with his magician tricks. Make that something that's genuinely positive for him, like when he uses it to scare off the lion. But instead, we're haunted by this false hope he put in the girl in order to make her walk, right? But then later in Oz, because of what he just naturally is, he has glue in his bag and he can actually make a girl walk again. That's the kind of narrative that I think is strongest in this film, that would have been better to focus on in this film. But instead, we're doing this whole like, you have to be a good man in order to end this movie in a successful way. It's weird. It doesn't work.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And honestly, I take issue even with that moment, because like I think that's one of the few moments of genuine earnestness and sweetness is when he fixes China Girl's legs. The CGI looks good. Even Franco is pulled up whatever acting muscles he does have, and he does seem to care in this little moment. Like it is very nice. But like the structure of this movie, if you ignore the fact that it's supposed to be lightly a prequel to The Wizard of Oz, is in the real world, I failed at XYZ because it turns out I didn't try. In Oz, I succeeded because they thought I was a wizard. And then Glinda says, no, it's because you tried. And no, he's not going to go back to Kansas and whip out magic to fix whatever her name is legs. But they're implying loosely a certain level of technical invention trickery that's maybe more fantastical than the real world. And I can see the end of this movie, him going back, putting effort into his relationship to have what he wants, and to build some sort of believable Sam Raimi, Tim Burton style leg brace that helps this kid to walk. And he puts in the effort. Like, maybe we write in what it is that is making her sick. Like, I don't know if she's supposed to be paralyzed or if it's supposed to be polio, or like, I don't know. But what we're setting up is you can fix these things when you put the effort in. You just haven't yet because you don't believe in yourself. But because we can't go back to Kansas, because the Wizard of Oz has to stay here, what the message is when you can't do well in the real world, Run away to a fantasy world where the level of disbelief is even higher so that you can have more gullible citizens and more people to swindle so that you can be a success. That's what this message is. Because you were a failure where
Well,
people could actually critique you, go to a world where they can't. End of story.
yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, and that's why I think his relationship with Glenda in this movie is so important because Glenda can see through all those tricks, but she still
Yeah.
kind of believes in him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the moments where the characters work the best are the moments when the China doll is challenging the wizard because she needs him to be something for her. Like
Mm-hmm.
she's fragile, she is vulnerable in a big world. I mean, obviously they give her a bit of like a defiant streak, but essentially if the wizard is not there, she cannot go on. And that's a whole like he's forced to be a bit of a father figure in that moment. And I think that's significant. There are connections and community elements where you are needed by the people around you, and that calls upon you to be better than you were before. So I like that a lot. Then there's also the Glenda relationship with Oz, how she sees through the fact that he doesn't believe in himself and that he's not great and powerful the way that other people believe in him. But she still thinks that he has potential to do something. She's like, you may not be the wizard I wanted, but I could still make it work. And if you
Mm.
want to make it work, you can make it work too. And it's through those two relationships that the wizard realizes the inventiveness of Edison, who he worships as if he were a magician,
And
might be the
Tesla.
solution. Right, yeah, and Tesla might be the solution to the problems he's dealing with. Maybe he doesn't have Oz magic, but he does have Earth magic. And generally, I'm a huge sucker for that kind of thing. I love the idea that technology, math, and science, even language and storytelling, are human forms of magic. We just
Mm-hmm.
think of them as normal and therefore do not think of them as magic. But they do incredible things through what is ultimately pretty tenuous means. So, like, I love pointing out that technology, science, and human connection is basically a kind of magic.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the movie has buried itself in so much confusion and nonsense by the time we get to the relationship
Indeed.
aspects between the China doll and
Indeed.
Glenda and the relationship with the wizard and his inventiveness that like it's not enough to save it at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like what I said in the beginning, if you cut off the first half and you just kind of watch the middle to the end of this, there's an idea in this film that
Mm-hmm.
could be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But none of the stuff they set up in the beginning sets us up for an end that is satisfying or interesting. We have too many questions or contradictions in the first part of this film in order to enjoy how it ends. And that just, I mean, it kind of ruins everything. I
It
enjoy
does.
looking at the costumes.
Some
That's
of
kind of
them,
it.
honestly, I think some of them
Some
are
of
good,
them.
but I
Hmm.
was looking at others, and they even have Glinda saying that they make pretty clothes, and I'm like, I'm looking around and I see like, yeah, no, they're not bad, but I feel like the ones in Wizard of Oz are better. I think the ones in Wicked are better. I think it's unfortunate that this one is the lowest. And I'm sure there are other Wizard of Oz movies that are worse, okay? Like, I haven't seen Return to
Hmm.
Oz, and I haven't seen the Michael Jackson one. I'm not gonna go and say that Oz the Great and Powerful is the worst Oz movie there is. Just of this
The Wiz is
marathon, it
apparently
is.
pretty good, but it's
Okay.
like pretty cultural too. I've not seen it all the way through.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the ending is kind of cool, like with the smoke and the projector. I
Hmm.
really wish they had a better actor who could
Hmm.
lean into making the wizard persona believable. I couldn't think of a good
Yep.
one. For some reason I don't know why. I'm not saying that this should be this person, but I was thinking of whose head would I want to see in smoke and I could believe is stoic and scary and impactful when you want it to be, and for some reason I landed on Leonard Nimoy. I don't know why, okay? It's weird, but I imagined him and how scary Spock could be when he wanted to be.
Absolutely.
I just need to watch some Star
I don't
Trek.
know if he could pull off the
No.
bumbling
Yeah,
part
he
of the
couldn't.
wizard,
No.
but
I'm not saying I want him to be the
as an
wizard, but
intimidating head of smoke
yeah.
yelling at
I
you, yeah,
wanted
absolutely.
I
That's a
wanted
great
whoever
picture.
was gonna be the wizard. I wanted Smokehead form to be like the smoke comes in, he comes into frame, and like maybe his eyes are whited out or something. I don't fucking know, but he's just like he's not even I'm the like I just watched Halloween Town, and honestly, the campiness of Calabar is more believable than this wizard. And I also understand that it is narratively there that he's putting on, that he's being silly, that he's being overly dramatic. I still feel like you could have made that part cooler and still had it be believable.
Yeah. The weakest part, well, no, maybe not the weakest part, because there's a lot of weak spots in this film. But honestly, I couldn't get over Franco's acting. And that feels really mean to say. Maybe he was just out of his depth. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's a really phenomenally bad cast. And it ruins the whole film.
I think he is the weakest bit. I think the CGI is second, because I think Mila Kunis with better writing is fine. But I don't think there's any version of this with Franco in which he's good. No. The only movie he's in that I genuinely like him in is Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and other people just point out how he's very bland in that because he's barely acting, and so we get by. But like, and anything where he has to be acting, it's he's the same guy over and over and over again, and so it's just
I think you can fix anything in this film except for him in the wizard role. Like, it doesn't work.
Yeah. For roles like that, sometimes I honestly wish you'd cast a nobody or someone huge, not middle of the road, because it honestly it takes me out of the movie a little bit, especially in the opening, black and white, everything. You're trying to make it look like an old-timey movie, and then boom, there's just James Franco being James Franco.
Good point.
Like, ew. Just ew.
Yeah. No, it's I don't know. It's bad.
Yeah. I wonder if they were attempting to illustrate that this main character comes to Oz without a brain, a heart, or a spine. And I don't know if that's accidental, because if it is intentional, he does have a heart with how much he cares for China Girl. He does have a brain with how much he is able to solve a handful of problems with his fake magic, and the fact that he could draw blueprints for light projecting cameras just off the top of his head. And he does have a spine because he fakes his death, and like I don't there's a lot of potential here, and it's all squandered.
I mean, even inherently with that, the idea that he needs to develop his heart, brain, and spine, courage, love, and intelligence, those things, developing those things would then make him more appreciative of those things. And if you watch The Wizard in the original, if we're going to try and again make that arc complete by watching the original, the wizard doesn't really value those things. The wizard is undercutting them as he hands out the prizes. Now, our characters are kind of blind to that because it's a little bit cartoonish, but the lines the wizard delivers are very much like, in my world, nobody's really that much smarter than anybody else, but some people have a piece of paper that say they're real smart. Here's that piece of paper. And it's supposed to be a commentary on like anyone has the potential to develop those sides of themselves. But if the wizard as a character values those things, then he would not deliver those lines in the way that he does in the original film. Yeah. So like the people who made this film didn't care about Oz. They didn't care about the tradition or the history of the books or the movie. They just wanted to make a visual spectacle, and honestly,
it's not even that visually spectacle. This is 3 years after Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, and I honestly think the CGI is either comparable, but Tim Burton gets away with it because everything happens at night, and so everything looks more believable, or it honestly is worse than that, and that's a shame.
I mean, I don't notice it as much as you do, but there are definitely moments where, like, there are moments where the story is put on complete halt just so we can, like, look at the world of Oz. But when looking at the world of Oz, they don't really do anything with it half the time.
No, you're totally right. I'm genuinely surprised it doesn't bother you as much. It hurt my eyes, and I'm not exaggerating.
I grew up watching Star Trek and Doctor Who. Man, it takes a lot for me to be bothered.
I'm not saying that. Like, I'm not. There's there's bad special effects, and then there's just painful special effects. It's not just that it's bad. It's the saturation is too high. It is painful to look at. There's nothing in Star Trek that visually hurts you to look at. Like there's multiple instances where
So say you.
okay. Every time there's a horse, I'm looking at the horse in this movie wondering, is that the horse of a different color? And I can't fucking tell because of the saturation changes. There's an instance.
The horse, like in the background, moves across the ground.
I saw that too. It was gliding, but at the very end, there's a horse pulling a carriage, and I swear it goes from white to yellow. But that could very much just be the way the saturation is in this movie, and I cannot tell. That's rough. There's no reason. There's no reason to do that at all. Oz is a bright, colorful, fun world. That does not mean you have to turn everything up to 11, especially if you're going to start in black and white, because anything in color is going to be bright and flamboyant in comparison. So I'm surprised by Mr. Raimi and his approach to this because of the other things I've seen. Pretty good, all things considered. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
He's one of the directors that I categorize in directs off of vibes rather than reason.
Fair enough.
And I think this movie fits that. I will say his storytelling is not usually this weak, but this is definitely a movie of vibes, and he's a director of vibes, so I'm not that surprised that he created it.
Yeah. 'Tis not a whale. I could not give this a whale. It's just not. It's not happening. It's ugh.
I feel like the most summative image for this is the sexy wicked witch character. Like it's like we had an idea and it's an awful idea, but we're gonna execute it to the 10th degree.
There's not even like a way in my mind where you can go and move some things around and make it better. I don't even know how you would fix it. You have to scrap it. I think the idea of an origin story for Oz, dealing with the witches and the political strife of Oz before Dorothy, before the Lion, before the Scarecrow, that's all good and fine. None of it is here. Like, the idea is interesting. Everything you've put before me, I don't want it. Send it back, start from scratch with the same menu item name, but like that's
I have good news for you.
Oh, is that Wicked? Okay, cool.
The next film we're going to be watching will do that for you.
Well, see, at the same time, it doesn't, because the idea of the wizard being a good man, not a great one, I like that concept. That is not Wicked.
Fair.
Which is fine.
I'm not
saying Wicked needs to do that. I like what Wicked does. It's very interesting. I like that take. But we don't have a story about Oz and how he tries to help and the exploration of what it is to be good. We don't have that. We have the man behind the curtain, we have James Franco, and we have a monster.
Yeah. I feel like you can take the last chunk of this movie and work backwards from it. Where it's like, this is where we ended up. What story can we tell to get to this point and have a story? And I think you could get there. But what they tried to do was really... I mean, basically, they focused really hard on the moral lessons, but they declined to actually get any of the details down. So if you start with the end, which again, I would argue is a pretty decent end, there are loose timing, pacing issues you could like tighten up a little bit, but you start with the idea that like the wizard decides to stay and uses his human inventiveness to create the wizard as it is, and that's how he defeats the witches without anybody having to kill anyone, right? And then you work backward from that and you're like, how did we end up in this situation? And I think you can tell a pretty compelling story about how the wizard comes to Oz and becomes the Wizard of Oz, even though he's kind of a usurper. Like, he's not really a wizard, he's but he is kind of doing the best that he can. I think you can tell a compelling story that way. You just kind of have to surrender the heavy-handed morals that you're trying to force into the story and allow the character to develop in a natural way that allows him to be morally gray at the end of the film. Don't focus on the goodness so much. Focus on the kindness, maybe.
Yeah,
because
sure.
kindness can happen regardless of moral structure, you know? So there's nuance that I think you can work into the story, but they decided to focus on like black and white storytelling, which is a really weird choice for the Land of Oz.
Yes, it is. Was that intentional the way you said that? Because that works really well.
It was a little intentional. I
That's
meant
good.
it figuratively, and then as we went, I was like, no, that's perfect.
You
I'm
could be a
gonna use
writer.
that. Yeah, oh, I know.
Yeah, well, that's us for now. Thanks
Yeah.
for not listening. We're technically halfway through this marathon already. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Moving quick.
I'm excited for the next one. All right, bye.